Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Muslim Business Secret Series. As Muslims, we have been given formulas to navigate life successfully from the Quran and the Sunnah. I'm going to explain to you how you can implement this one Muslim business secret from a hadith to stay ahead in business and stay out of trouble and prevent problems and disasters in your business. The secret is lowering the gaze. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded in Surah Noor, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and to protect their private parts. This is purer for them. Verily, Allah is all aware of what they do. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also taught us that the lustful glance is one of the poisoned arrows of Shaytan. Lowering the gaze means not to look at any member of the opposite gender with desire, with lust, which actually applies to both men and women, meaning also women shouldn't be looking at men with lust and desire. It also means not to look at the exposed aura of someone of the opposite gender. So how can lowering the gaze be powerful in business? Well, firstly, if you do a quick news search, it will reveal hundreds of examples of top CEOs and business owners across the globe caught having affairs and other types of sexual scandals. If you truly prevent yourself from looking at the opposite gender with desire, it completely safeguards you against getting in any kind of trouble. This type of inappropriate relationships can be disastrous for one's life and business career. Secondly, for most people, the opposite gender is one of the strongest distractions that they have in their life. A romantic interest in someone can become intense and it can affect our productivity, our mental clarity, our emotional state, and even our behavior. Lowering the gaze, whether you're walking on the street or you're in the office with a client, protects you from becoming distracted. You may be familiar with the lady in the red dress from the Matrix movie. She appeared during Neo's training to see how focused he was. Lowering the gaze effectively makes us immune to distractions, no matter how red or pretty the dress is. This makes us laser-focused entrepreneurs who will inevitably crush their goals bi'idhnillah. Thirdly, lowering the gaze, especially in modern times, takes almost a superhuman level of discipline and self-control. It is also linked to the concept of delayed gratification. These three qualities are arguably the most important ingredients to achieve anything in life. Whether you're trying to run a marathon or you're trying to build a business empire. Achieving this level of self-mastery gives us an incredible advantage in business. There are many case studies where CEOs of big corporations have faced severe consequences for not lowering their gaze. McDonald's, Best Buy, and CBS, just to name a few, have seen even their share prices plummet due to a massive error from the former CEOs. And you've probably already guessed what the error was. They all let their gaze get them in trouble and ruin their careers. These are just a few examples of high-profile individuals whose careers and companies were rocked by scandals involving affairs and sexual misconduct. Lowering the gaze would have saved them from the shame and from the damage to the reputation. It would have averted the damage of both their reputation and the company's balance sheet. Lowering the gaze nips all of these issues in the bud. How can you feel attracted to someone who you haven't looked at properly? So the next time you find your gaze wandering where it shouldn't, let us remember the words of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and let us lower our gaze and benefit from this Muslim business secret. A common question I always hear is, how can I lower my gaze when there are women all around us all of the time? This is particularly common for those of us living in the West. Now, wherever you live in the world, our work lives often involve interacting with the opposite gender, and in some way or another, we have to be around the opposite gender. In Western countries, the situation can be even harder, as wherever you may be, there could be women who are not properly covered and who are exposing their aura, making it even more difficult for us. So how can we deal with this? Yes, there could be inappropriately dressed women everywhere around you, but you don't have to be looking at them. Lower your gaze to the ground when you're in that type of environment. You have full control of your eyes. So whether you're in the mall, the gym, the office, a restaurant, keep your eyes to yourself. When we have to interact with the opposite gender, we should make sure that we are not looking at their aura. This means that we strictly shouldn't be looking at anything other than the face. Now, if the face happens to be particularly attractive, and it can happen, then we should speak to them while looking at the side of their head. This is the level of taqwa that will allow you to taste the sweetness of Iman in your heart. This is the level of taqwa that will bring blessings in your life and make you successful in the akhirah as well. Lowering the gaze also means not to look at someone with desire. We should think of the women we come across in daily life as our daughters, our sisters, and our mothers. We can train our minds to think like this. Desire and lust should only be for one's spouse. Now let me tell you a quick story on how detrimental not lowering your gaze can be. In 2016, a young lady hired me as an interview coach as she was desperately looking for a new job. At that time, I had an interview coaching business for students applying to internships and graduate schemes. However, she wasn't a student, so I had to inquire a little bit about her circumstances to understand her needs a little bit better. She sounded pretty distressed, and basically she was urgently trying to find another job because she was no longer comfortable in her current role. She was working as the assistant to a CEO of a pretty well-known organization. He was Muslim, and so was she. He was in his late 50s, and at that time he had taken a keen interest in her. She confided in me that he made several advances at her and that he kept suggesting that they should get married. She was actually less than half his age, and she had zero interest in him, as you can imagine. He would harass her with messages and calls all day and all night. When she tried to push back, he would get angry and make her life difficult by giving her an excessive amount of work for that week. The situation was highly inappropriate and highly unprofessional. Now, this is a very well-known and respected individual in the Muslim community, and he has a wife and grown-up children. Can you imagine the consequences of him pursuing his desires? Imagine if she reported him. What would that do to his reputation? What would that do to his organization? Imagine if she actually agreed to marry him. What would that do to his family? What would that do to his wife of 30 years? Now, luckily for him, with my help, she managed to get a job pretty quickly, and she got away as fast as she could. Now, all of this could have been avoided if only he was able to control his gaze. It's pretty difficult to fall for a girl half your age if your gaze is low and you don't see her directly. Not lowering the gaze in this scenario could have been catastrophic for this CEO. I know lowering the gaze isn't easy nowadays, especially in the world that we live in. But let me give you 3 practical things that you can do as a Muslim man to implement this important Muslim business secret. Number 1, avoid looking at women. As Muslim men, we must train ourselves to avoid looking at non-mahram women. We shouldn't give them a second glance. We shouldn't look at any part of their bodies except the face. So let us start by practicing this and track yourself for 30 days, inshallah. Number 2, train your mind not to look at women as an object of beauty and instead consider them family. Train your subconscious mind to think of all non-mahram women as your daughter, as your sister, as your mother. This way, you will negate the instinctive attraction and replace it with a healthy respect and a protective care. This was the method taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the famous narration about the Sahabi who asked him to make adultery permissible for him. Number 3, be very conscious of your interactions with non-mahram women. We should only speak if there is a purposeful reason. We should avoid unnecessary chit-chat and joking around, and we should keep all of our communication, whether verbal or written, completely professional. We should speak with respect and treat them how we would want a stranger to treat our own sister. Let me know in the comments below if you've had or heard of any experiences where the lowering of the gaze has protected someone and their business, or let me know if you have any other advice on how we can implement this secret in our lives. If you've liked this video, then you definitely want to check out this one where I share an incredible gift given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until the next one, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.